Outlaw Sports is brought to you by Molson Canadian, made from Canada, and Rocky Mountain Barbecue, Alberta barbecue cuisine at its best.
Okay, Ian, let's talk about the landscape around the CFL. What's going to happen as far as you're concerned in the next little while? I know, first of all, locally, the Henry Burris situation, and I know you checked into it, but they've had their meeting and they've decided they're going forward. It's already been, they know that Henry's not going to be here and they're trying to trade him.
Obviously a touchy situation down there at McMahon Stadium.
No kidding, eh?
They don't, I get the feeling that they don't want it to be completely public knowledge that they're going to move him, and they're going to be pushing forward with the trade right away, because then it limits the value of the trade they're going to get back. I would expect this to get done.
Just tell them what you went through when you phoned down there.
Well, I phoned down there to ask Huff about this meeting, and he said he was on an embargo, and I said, well, that's fine. You don't have to comment about it.
Yep.
Just talk to me about this stuff. And he got more upset with me when I talked to Henry, and Henry talked to Huff, and we had this three-way conversation that didn't go well. So I got to hear the wrath of Huffnagel, and it's fine. He was upset of me for stirring the pot a little bit, but that's the way it goes.
But it's the truth. I mean, they've already had this meeting, and they're going to try and deal them, and it's no big surprise. It's no big secret.
Exactly.
Everyone expected it.
Well, and what happens now is John Huffnagel wants to go behind closed doors and do all this business and then come out and say, we've done this.
Surprise.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work that way. I mean, we know what's happening. Henry knows what's happening. He knows he's getting traded, and he honestly knows the destinations. It's either Hamilton or Toronto or Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Now, Winnipeg seems more unlikely now, but...
Do you think even after...
Well, I don't know, because who knows what they think there, and they might think that they're more than quarterback away.
Yeah.
I don't know. And if Henry's the answer to that question, I don't know. Hamilton has crept up a lot in the last few weeks, obviously, in the last week and a half. Yeah. It's been a lot of chatter about Hamilton, and they're really getting to the point where they've had enough of the Kevin Glenn up and down. He's either red hot or ice cold. They would rather somebody in the middle.
Yep.
Somebody who can win a game even when he doesn't have the greatest game. He doesn't have a great performance. But Toronto obviously is the destination that's most intriguing, because if they have a coaching change with Scott Milanovic coming over from Montreal, he's probably going to be the head coach, I would suspect, and he's going to have to prove that he can build an offense without Mark Trestman. And when you would talk to Montreal Alouettes players about their offense, they would talk about Mark this and Mark's that, and it was, well, Scott Milanovic is your offensive coordinator. He's more of a manager of the offense, and Mark Trestman is the architect. It's like a construction site. So Mark Trestman designs it. Scott Milanovic was implementing it. And we'll see now if Scott, away from Mark Trestman, can design an offense as well as rebuild one at the same time. Obviously, Toronto has a lot of things to do in that offense to get up to the standard of the rest of the league.
I wanted to ask you, because Jim Barker, if he's guilty of one thing, it's hiring guys that he seems so loyal to no matter what. It's not always the best candidate. It's not always the best decision. It's who he knows and who he's comfortable with, and we've seen that blow up in his face many times.
Right. And I think the interesting part about this is Milanovic was really close to getting that job when Barker did.
Yes.
And he was the other choice. They went in Barker's direction, and now it's similar to the situation with Saskatchewan, where I think that they're going to go with Corey Chamberlain because he was the second choice before, that type of thing. So obviously Barker and Milanovic have a past. They were here in Calgary in 2004. Obviously Barker hired him to be a coach after he had flamed out as a quarterback here. So he got him started, and it's going to be interesting to see how that duo work together if they're on the same page. I would suspect they're going to be on the same page, but they have a long rebuild. They're going to try and rebuild it in a year and get to the Grey Cup at their own building next year, which is tough to do. BC obviously did a really good job, but that was Wally Bono as the architect there, and I don't think that those guys have the ability to do it in 1 year.
Let me ask you this question. Why is Toronto getting $1 million from the CFL?
They're only getting $500,000.
Okay, all right. So Toronto and Hamilton, when Braley's down there now as the owner, as opposed to the other guys who really needed it to try and stay afloat.
Right. Well, the league looks at their sagging TV numbers this year and thought one of the big key markets was Toronto. They dipped in numbers very greatly in that area because the team wasn't that good. So they want to build it back up with a marketing campaign and try and get to the point where people are excited about CFL football in Southern Ontario. The times that I've gone to Southern Ontario, you go to the Hamilton area and you say, oh, why are you here? And they say, oh, well, I'm in town for a football game. Oh, are the Bills playing this weekend? It's tough. It's tough. They're on an uphill battle there because it is a lot of NFL country there, and they have to do something. I don't know what they're going to do with this $1 million. I don't know what sort of things that they're going to spend on.
Buy Leaf uniforms.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Switch
everybody to hockey colors. I don't know what they're going to do with the money. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But obviously the league feels, or the rest of the league feels, that they have to build Southern Ontario or they're not going to grow.
Okay, quickly, who do you think in BC?
BC, I get the sense that Mike Benavides is going to take over as the head coach. And just call it a gut feeling. And obviously, they haven't gotten to even the stage process where they're starting to turn it over. But Wally has to step down first or decide on his future, which is probably going to be a week, a couple weeks.
Yeah.
You never know. He'll probably announce
before he goes to Hawaii.
Yeah, he'll announce it before he goes to Hawaii, and then we'll start to see the pieces fall in place. And then they have to add to their staff. There's going to be a lot of switch. It's amazing. In an 8-team league, you wouldn't think that there's always 25% of the turnover every year. But it always happens. There's 2 to 3 jobs open every year, and that switches so many things because guys move from position coaches to coordinators and coordinators to head coaches, and then guys go from head coaches back to coordinators, and it's this little moving puzzle that always takes until middle of January, almost till February to sort out.
If Tim Burke doesn't garner more attention over the next few years, I don't know when he ever will. He runs a pretty good defense, did in Montreal, and certainly proved it in Winnipeg. Winnipeg certainly has to look at a punting change. Will Burke Dales end up as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber?
I expect they will make a huge play for Burke when he becomes a free agent in mid-February. Obviously, Jamie Borum, he had a great game in the East Final, punting in the wind, in the snow. He wasn't so great indoors. They've just had some inconsistency at that position. I think we're going to see Burke finally go there after 3 years ago when it was rumored, or 2 years ago when they announced that he's coming. He's coming as a free agent, although he hasn't signed his deal yet. Burke said, "No, I'm not going there."
He doesn't feel wanted here.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't feel wanted.
And it's
here.
probably time for a change for him too. It's,
and he's kicking the hell out of the ball.
Oh my God, he's done a phenomenal job over the last couple of years. He's really concentrated on the positional instead of the just getting massive yardage.
Sure.
And it'll be fun to see him manage the new stadium in Winnipeg.
Yeah, you don't want to be named an all-star. You don't want to be named most valuable player because that means you're going someplace. Who else on the Stampede roster do you expect to be gone? Have we seen the last of Rambo?
Rambo?
Yeah.
John Huffdingle has a lot of loyalty. And when he looks at Rambo, he still sees the player that he was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think is he'll give him another chance to come back healthy. And he wasn't healthy at all this past year. Yeah. I think that's what my gut feeling. He'll give him another chance to come back healthy and really reestablish himself. Now, he's getting up there in age, and he's got a knee problem and an Achilles problem, and he has to get over that in the offseason. And maybe it'll take a little less training this offseason, maybe taper it down, get himself ready. It's interesting when guys get to this age, they have to do more work in the offseason than they used to. And I'm pretty sure Rambo can do that. Whether he can actually sustain himself for 18 games, that's another question.
Anything else in the Stampede front as far as changes in your estimation?
Well, the interesting thing that I see is if Dave Dickinson wants to be a head coach right away and doesn't see the opportunity here, and if he pushes hard to get that job in Saskatchewan, they might be willing to give him the job instead of Corey Chamberlain.
Really?
It'll be that's going to have to play out. And the interesting thing is if it's Dave Dickinson going over there, Craig Dickinson is the special teams coordinator. I'm assuming those guys would stay on under Dave, or Craig would stay under Dave. That would be an interesting combination. They're right close to Montana, right there, closer to home. Although I think home is more here for Dave Dickinson now than Montana.
Well, Craig's name has even popped up in the leader post that he was a candidate.
He interviewed for it. He asked to be considered a candidate, and they gave him that consideration. So, special teams coordinator to head coach. We've seen that last year with Kavis Reed.
Yep.
Can utility be a poster? Can utility keep you up at night, dreaming? Can utility put thoughts in your head? Depends on what you mean by utility. Introducing the new Porsche Cayenne and Cayenne S Hybrid. Lighter, more agile, more efficient. More Porsche than ever.